courthouse was quiet that morning, the kind of silence that carried a weight of expectation. People shuffled papers, lawyers whispered to their clients, and the judge prepared for another day of routine traffic cases. But when the bailiff called the next defendant's name, the room grew still. Walking slowly, leaning on a wooden cane, polished by years of use, a 100-year-old veteran made his way to the front of the courtroom. His name was Harold Thompson, and the charge against him was simple yet serious: running a red light. At first, many thought it would be another quick hearing, a fine, maybe a stern warning, and the case would be over. But when Harold lifted his head, his eyes clouded with age, yet still sharp with dignity, the atmosphere shifted. This was not just another case. This was a man who had lived through wars, built a family, and carried the weight of a century on his shoulders. The prosecutor read the charge, explaining that on June 12th, Harold had driven straight through a red light at Main Street and Fifth Avenue. While no accident occurred, the law was clear. A violation had taken place. The courtroom waited for Harold to respond, expecting perhaps an excuse or a plea for leniency. Instead, his voice broke the silence with honesty. He admitted to running the light, but then he explained why. That morning, his daughter had fallen ill. He was rushing to her side, not thinking of himself, but only of her. At his age, every moment mattered, and he could not bear the thought of her being alone. The room fell silent. This was no reckless driver shrugging off responsibility. This was a father, even at 100 years old, still living for his family. People exchanged glances, some even blinking back tears. The judge, known for his strict approach to traffic law, leaned forward. He asked Harold if he regretted what he had done. Harold's response was simple, but powerful. He regretted breaking the law, yes, but he did not regret choosing his daughter's well-being above all else. There was a pause so deep that it seemed time itself had stopped. The judge studied him, seeing not just an old man, but a century of service, sacrifice, and quiet strength. The prosecutor, who moments before had pressed the case, lowered his eyes. Even he knew this was not the same as the other violations he had argued against. The entire courtroom felt the weight of Harold's words, and for a moment, the law gave way to humanity. Finally, the judge delivered his decision. He acknowledged the violation, but reminded the courtroom that justice was not only about punishment, it was also about compassion and understanding. Considering Harold's age, his service as a veteran, and his reason for running the red light, the judge dismissed the case. The words were simple, but the impact was profound. As the gavel struck, Harold stood a little taller, his back straight despite the years. He raised a trembling hand in salute, a gesture that carried more power than words ever could. The courtroom erupted in quiet applause, not out of disrespect for the judge, but out of admiration for the moment they had just witnessed. The judge nodded, clearly moved, and Harold whispered a soft, "Thank you," before slowly making his way out of the courtroom. That day, no one remembered it as just another traffic case. They remembered it as the moment when mercy triumphed over punishment, when a 100-year-old man reminded everyone in the room what it truly meant to live with love, duty, and honor.